and Non Critics, starring me, Non Critic Dustin. And from Hawaii, we are joined with
Your favorite guy, Non Critic Will. Hey,
my
everybody.
favorite guy. My favorite guy? Or
The fans.
No. All right. This is two non-critics. Will and I are two lifelong friends and movie buffs with very different tastes, and we're trying to share some of our personal. Maybe this is probably one of my favorite films with each other to see what the other has to say about it. And tonight we're doing the 1985 Terry Gilliam classic. This is a certified classic, Brazil. The reason I chose this is because Terry Gilliam is probably tied with John Carpenter as my favorite filmmaker, and I wanted to introduce Non-Critic Will to the world of Gilliam, and this is one of the best ways to do it. Also, he has a new film coming out called The Zero Theorem, which I won't have a chance to see until it finally gets released in America. So I thought, why not talk about one of his other films and see what Will has to say about it. So, Will, take it away.
All right. Brazil. Well, a quick summary of the movie. There's this guy who works for the government. His name is Sam, the main character. His name is Sam. He works for the government, and he is pretty much going to this widower's house to, I guess, fix a problem that happened. First off, there's a bunch. It seems like it's a futuristic type of world. First off, and for some reason there are a shitload of terrorist attacks that are constantly happening. So the government was actually looking for this one person that's believed to be a terrorist called Archibald Buttle. If I'm correct. Tuttle?
It was Tuttle, and then the fly jammed up the typewriter, and it became Buttle, right?
But wasn't Buttle was the one that they were? Were they after Buttle or Tuttle?
They were after Tuttle, but then they went after Buttle because of a mistake.
Well, yeah, there you go. So this is I remember when I was saying last week about every movie or book, it has to have a certain point that it hooks you. Well, for me, was at the very beginning as well, where it's Christmas. So you're thinking everything is nice, spending time with your family, you're just having a good time. It's Christmas night. All of a sudden, a whole big ass SWAT team just blows down the door, cuts a hole into the ceiling of their house, guns blazing, and puts a bag over Archibald Buttle and incarcerates him because he was believed to be a terrorist when it was actually supposed to be Tuttle. The reason why they made the mistake was because in the factory or office or whatever where they're printing out the reports of the person that they have to incarcerate, there was an incident, a mishaps, where there was, for some reason, an oversized damn fly, a fly that's 3 times the size of a normal fly for some reason, and the worker just naturally kills it with a newspaper on the ceiling. But it drops into the printer that was printing out the reports. Because it dropped into the printer, something malfunctioned, something glitched. You saw the printer like spark, and it replaced the T in just one of the papers. It replaced the T with a B for Buttle. So that's when it took him. And they also killed him. They incarcerated him and sentenced him to death. So that's how the story starts, why this whole mishaps happened. Now, the reason how Sam ties in this is because Sam, he works for the government, like I was saying, and he was tasked to go to the widower's house and apologize for the whole incident, reimburse her, whatever he has to do that they told him. Sam, he's kind of he's a dreamer. He has this recurring dream where he's on this glorious adventure. He has angelic wings. He's flying through the sky, and he's always seeing the same woman, this beautiful blonde-haired woman that I guess is his love interest throughout every adventure he goes through in his dream. Where things get more weird is that the woman that he's always saw in his recurring dream is actually the upstairs neighbor of the Buttles. So it sends him on, I wouldn't say a wild goose chase, but it sends him on a pursuit to figure out who this woman is. So his mom actually, she works for the government too. She's in the higher up. She knows a lot of the head honchos, and she's obsessed with plastic surgery for some reason, and it's the dumbest plastic surgery you can think of. But anyway,
I wouldn't say it's any more dumb than plastic surgery that actually occurs in real life.
True. But she's obsessed with plastic surgery.
Real quick, before you go too much further, because like I said, there's a lot that happens in the movie. I don't mean to cut you off, but let's get into your impressions of the film. What did you think about it? We'll get into specific details in a little bit, but what did you think about the film? What was your impression of it?
My impression of the film, it was definitely something that I've only watched very few times. There was so many things going on all at once that it kept me glued to the screen. I did like the film. I was interested in the film. It just, sometimes it was very hard to understand just because there's so much going on. It's very hard to understand what the hell. I mean, I don't even know why it's called Brazil. I didn't catch that. If it mentioned it in the movie, I don't even know why it's called Brazil.
The only reason I know of why it would be called Brazil is the idea for the film first came from Terry Gilliam sitting on the beach in the song Brazil. Either it came on or he imagined someone listening to that song in this sort of world that you see in the film. And so that was the catalyst for the film. I don't know if it has any more significance than that.
Okay. Yeah, because I couldn't tell you to this day why the film's called Brazil. I was thinking it had something to do with Brazil, but completely different direction. Mm-hmm. But the movie was very interesting. It's just it's one of those movies where you have to watch more than once to really get a good grasp of everything, because there's so much going on, and it's supposed to symbolize this futuristic world. What was did it say like the year that it was supposed to be in the film?
Not specifically. It just said that sometime in the 20th century, it said. So it's basically, this is a film that's, if you think about it, it's out of time. It's not really set to a certain, I guess, but we already passed that.
Well, yeah, my whole thoughts on the movie, like I said, I like it. It was very interesting, just hard to understand if you're just watching it once. It's something you definitely have to go back over and watch again. But there was a lot of different twists and turns. Sometimes you couldn't tell what was reality and just imagination or dream. So that was kind of confusing too. So something that you really have to pay attention to the whole time. Like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, and it's why I wanted to sort of introduce you to Terry Gilliam's style of filmmaking because, and like David Lynch, he doesn't make movies that have a clear answer, and he doesn't
Mhm.
make movies that necessarily have a clear plot. There is a plot to the film, but it's incidental. It's not really what the film is about. The film is about whatever you get out of it, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Like, there are people who dissect the shit out of this movie. They break down all the imagery. They break down all of the any possible metaphorical symbolism in the film and derive entire theories out of it. Some of which I think Terry Gilliam probably did intentionally. Others, he probably just thought it looked cool. But so I don't want to get into that, like the academia of the film. I would like to just get into your impression of like, what sort of themes did you take away from the movie? Like a lot of people say there's a theme about humanity versus machinery, or about reality versus dreams. Like, what did you identify with in terms of theme?
Well, okay, well, I can agree with a lot of people with humanity versus machines and dream reality. Well, that's one that I just touched on about couldn't tell if it was reality or dream. Um, Also, I don't want to say I don't want to just say reality versus dream, but I just want to say like something that really just tries to twist your psyche, something that tries to really dissect your mind and make you look at the world at a different angle.
Okay,
That's I mean,
what angle did it get you looking at things?
me. The way it's kind of hard to explain. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like you're looking at the world upside down because stuff that was going on in that movie is something that you're not used to. Like, well, okay, for instance, there was a part in the movie where he's meeting up with his mother at this fancy restaurant for dinner, and as they're talking, he doesn't really like his mother that much. She constantly is trying to get him to stay working with the government and get a better position, a better job, and whatnot. But anyway, regardless of that, while they're trying to have a nice meal together with her friends or coworkers, all of a sudden the terrorist attack happens at the restaurant. Like there's, I think it was by the door or the back of the room. There was a big explosion, and people are running over there trying to put out the fire, and they're still just sitting down having a normal conversation, like everything's cool. Like the mom is still has that smile on her face, like, oh, so what's we going to do about the party? Like, what? Like, do you not see what the hell's going on right next to you? Really? Like it just it twists your mind about things to it makes you wonder like what are these people really afraid of? Like has it gotten this bad that it's a common thing? That oh, all right, well they'll fix that. I'm gonna keep eating. Oh, somebody's shooting over there. Oh, he just shot him in the face. I'm still gonna eat. Like like it really it twists your mind about things. For me, it did. And like the whole time in my head, I'm just like, what the fuck? And then, if not that, the dreams that the main character was having was just out of this world. Like he had a whole different life in his dreams, and somehow the love interest that was actually a real person, the next door neighbor, the upstairs neighbor, I was saying, her character's name was Jill. Um, his pursuit of her turned into a whole big thing where he becomes he's labeled a terrorist. throughout his pursuit of her. So, yeah, my impression, like it twists things in my mind, because like it's something that you're expecting people to be like, oh my god, stuff is happening, we're gonna go, oh my god, there's an explosion. They're just like, oh, they did not feel my brandy. Really?
When I first saw the movie, I had already been a pretty big Terry Gilliam fan. I mean, I was a fan of Monty Python. I loved Time Bandits. I think Time Bandits is probably my sixth favorite film of all time. I can still watch that movie all the time. You had Mr. Vano in high school, right?
Yep.
Did you watch Time Bandits?
No,
we watched Time Bandits in this class.
When I was in Mr. Vano's class, I was in Mystery and Mayhem.
Yeah, me too.
And were we in the same class?
No, you had it like a semester before I did.
Oh, for us, we watched Logan's Run.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you watched Logan's. We were gonna watch that. We watched Time Bandits instead, which I was glad because I hadn't seen Time Bandits yet. And
I've never seen Logan's Run. So,
and I owned Logan's Run. I'd seen that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But so I already loved Logan. I mean, I already loved Time Bandits. I like Logan's Run too. But so when I saw the movie, I was very excited to see it, and it really I had a very similar impression the first time that you had, which I think probably a lot of people had when they saw it. That I was like, wait, I don't totally know what to make of this movie yet, and it wasn't upon multiple viewings. It was more upon just thinking about it, which that Terry Gilliam will say that's his goal. He likes his movies to end in such a way that you have to think about it, and you have to talk about it until you come to your own conclusions. And what I came to was that it's a film where everything is about order, and order is constantly being thwarted by chaos. And everything is about paperwork and about procedure. And like when he's trying to order, he just wants the steak, and the waiter's like, "Please say in number, sir," and he's like, "I don't know what number it is. I just want a steak." And he's trying to talk to his mom. He goes, "Say it's number 12. Say it's in number, sir," and he's getting so frustrated. And then the waiter just gets fed up and gets in the thing. And so it's this movie that's constantly about that while this chaos is going on, and then you have him where he's escaping into these dreams, and he finally feels alive in these dreams. And by the end of it, which the movie's been out for 29 years, I'm going to spoil the ending, I don't care. At the end, when he dies, essentially, when he gets shot in the head, he's finally free. He's finally free to that delusion that he's been living. And what really struck me about that is I started to wonder, is fantasy an equally viable alternative to reality? Can you have just as a rewarding life in this dream world than you can in the real world? And that's something I still struggle with in just my own life.
Well, I have a question actually about the ending, since we're talking about it. Don't want to give shit spoiler or whatever. You said he got shot in the head and he died.
No, he didn't. I'm sorry. The other guy got shot in the head. I'm sorry.
I was saying, wasn't he strapped to a chair?
Yeah, he was strapped to the chair. The other guy got shot in the head.
And he was put into a dream state.
Mm-hmm.
But then they found him useless. Like his best friend, I can't say betrayed him. He just didn't follow. He didn't follow with his best friend anymore because he wanted to stay true to the ministry, to the government. Yeah. So he was the one that also strapped him in a chair and put that machine over his head that puts him in a state of a state of unconsciousness. He was just in a dream state for the rest of his life. He was in a dream state, and they found that he's useless to us, and he got stuck like they kept him like that for, I guess, forever. I guess because that's the end of the movie, or he's in his dream state where he's actually free.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, when he got captured, I mean, in the dream state when he got captured, the resistance, the so-called terrorists who they're like rebels, like if you want to compare it to Star Wars, how you have the rebel forces going against the Empire, so it's that rebel scum. So the rebels were able to break in and free him. Found out that his love interest Jill was alive because they said she was dead as they incarcerated her. She tried to resist arrest and they killed her. So it was a whole big thing that was his whole dream, is that he escaped. They freed him. He ended up with her. She wasn't dead, and they drove off into the sunset, whatever. But in reality, he's still in that damn chair. She actually did die, and he's considered useless. Now, the reason why I asked you earlier, have you seen Repo Man? And you told me no, that the remake, the reboot of Repo Man.
I don't know if it's no. I think the Repo Man I was thinking of in the '80s is not related to the one that just came out recently.
Well, in Repo with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker, the end of Repo Man, and I'm pretty sure everybody's seen this, so I don't give a shit. Spoiler, haha. But the end of Repo Man was the same thing, the same concept. Like the whole movie was about stealing organs, and something happened to him where his own people were going after him, and they had to take his organs back because he didn't have the money to pay. If you don't have the money to pay, then yeah, they just come in and Repo Man, they knock you out. They knock you out and just take your organs. It doesn't matter if it's a heart or whatnot. If you can't pay it, then we're taking it. So somewhere near the end of the movie, they captured him, they knocked him out, and he got free. He was rescued. That was the dreams. That was the dream state, and he ended up in the beach with his love interest, happily ever after. But in reality, just like Brazil, he's still in that capsule that they had him in his dream state. So I just gave you the ending for Repo Man. But yeah, that's why I asked you if you watched Repo Man, because I'm pretty sure Repo Man got that from Brazil.
Could be. I'm pretty sure I saw Repo Man as a novel in Barnes and Noble. I don't know if it was a novelization of a movie or if it was a novel first. I don't know, but it could have. Now, I ask you, do you think that Brazil has a happy ending?
Yes and no. No, because he was captured. He didn't escape. His love interest did get murdered. So he was marked a terrorist. But yes, because of the fact that in his own mind, his own psyche, he escaped. He survived. He's free. He's living his life doing what he always wanted to do. So it's like a bittersweet ending. If I had to just choose either yes or no, I'd say yes, because he's finally free. He's finally free from order, repetition. Doing the same thing over and over and over again is insanity. So he was able to escape that, whether it was just through his mind. But your mind works your body, so since his mind went to his freedom, his own reality, his own way of escape, It didn't matter where his body was. It didn't matter. He ascended to someplace different. So, right. Yes, it was a happy ending in a sense. Yes.
Well, no, yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a happy ending because there's so much. When I saw the film, I had just graduated high school, I think, and I hated school. I hated everything about school, and I don't think public school is conducive to actual learning. I've learned more in the 10 years I've been out of school than I ever learned in the 12 years that I was in school. And I think the reason is it's standardization. They want kids to meet a standard. They have standardized tests they have to meet. They have quotas they have to meet. Children are literally reduced to numbers, and they have to fit the numbers. And that was, to me, that's what Brazil is about. It is about fitting the numbers. Everybody is a cog in this huge machine, and they all have to fit, and they all have to play by the rules, and so on and so forth. And everything's about paperwork, everything's about procedure, everything's about check mark this, sign this, get that stamped, do this. That if given the opportunity to accept delusion over reality, I think I would probably take the delusion at the end of the film. Just like in The Matrix. I was thinking about The Matrix, and I was like, yeah, it's nice that you're finally alive, and you get to party down in Zion in a big giant orgy, but it's kind of nice living in The Matrix, I think.
Yeah.
Pill I would pull.
Like Cypher was eating that steak. He's like, ignorance is bliss. Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely right to a certain extent. Now,
yeah.
Something I've noticed later while watching Brazil is the idea, and I'm going to use Terry Gilliam's words to explain it, because this is something I sort of picked up subliminally as opposed to that I didn't know how to quantify, and Terry Gilliam did it much better when he said that the world of Brazil is like it's like an organic mechanical beast. There are these mechanical ducts going everywhere that serve as like veins or intestines or guts, and which are what intestines are. So I mean, you have the people there. They're living in these huge buildings, but they're surrounded by cement, they're surrounded by metal, and they're surrounded by all these things. And it's almost as though the world itself was produced by man, but became its own thing. And I think that's something that's very interesting as well, that society can create its own artificial reality, but it's much uglier and much more artificial. I mean, it's artificial reality, but it's uglier and it's more constricting than the reality of our dreams or the reality of what we're truly capable of. Mm-hmm. And I think I identify with that more now than I did when I saw it about 10 years ago for the first time.
As we were talking about, reality versus, a dream state, a paradise that you create. There was a movie, can't think of the name, but there was a movie that one of my friends told me to watch. First off, it's a really, really fucked up movie. First off, it's disturbing.
Are you talking about the torture movie?
Yeah.
With the thing where they're skinning people. I mean, they're torturing people because they want to get them close to death.
Yes.
In the afterlife. Yeah. I forget what that's called. I thought if I asked you what it was about, if it would make the title come to me, but I can't remember.
I can't remember the title either, but have you seen that movie?
No, and I won't.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I bothered. I don't know why I bothered watching it. I don't know why, but you're not gonna watch it. But pretty much the end of the movie. Well, first the girl. It's one of the females. She escapes this type of prison that these scientists have in, because they're the ones that are trying to test, you know, once you're on the brink of death, do you truly see God? What do you see? Before you die, tell me, what do you see? Okay, kiss my ass. But anyway, she breaks out. She ends up in this house with some other girl. The girl ends up dying from this demonic zombie-looking creature that's also a female. But then you find out that the one that actually killed that girl was the main character because she was schizo. So it was just going back and forth. But
I don't think schizophrenics do that kind of thing. But go ahead.
I don't know. Yeah. But
schizophrenics get a bad rap in movies. I mean, we're talking about a movie that I don't think has any schizophrenics in it. That sucks. Schizos. Anyway, go ahead. But I should say schizos. Persons with schizophrenia. It's a very terrifying disease.
But the scientists, they found her again, and the president of that organization was another female, this old lady that was gung-ho about trying to find out, you know, if God really does exist. So they take her back, they find her, to capture her, and they bring her back. Now, there are just, each night, consecutively, there's some big-ass dude, security guard, that comes in and just beating the shit out of her. Like, there are just scenes where he's holding her head and just punching her in the face. Because he's trying to bring her to that point where she just truly find a happy place, and you won't feel pain. But anyway, the very ending of the movie, which was very, very sick, they pretty much skinned her alive, except her face. Like, they kept her skin on her face. That's it. Everything else was, you just saw red, you saw veins and everything. Just skin her alive. You saw muscle and all that. But once she hit that point of, like, that pain threshold, once she went over that, she didn't feel nothing else, because her mind went into a happy place. Like, you saw, it was creepy and disturbing, because she had a smile on her face, laying on the table, about to die, mind you. Like, she's on the brink of death, but she's smiling, because her mind took her to a reality where it was a beautiful paradise. Because it went past the threshold of pain to where you need to, I don't know, figure something else out. I don't know.
Oh man, it sounds like too much.
It was horrible. It was horrible. Like, as I'm watching it, I'm like closing my eyes in some parts, like, why the fuck am I watching this?
Now I want to ask. Oh, go ahead.
We watched it with a group of people, and we were all just like, why is this? But yeah, I mean, I was just pretty much saying that just to say, you know, the whole difference between reality and the paradise that you make in your mind. It depicts if you have a happy life or a bad life.
Yeah, it depends on what life is. I mean, yeah, Jonathan Pryce's character in Brazil didn't have much of a life at all. It just was what it was. His true life was in dreams. So I think you're right. And my last question before we wrap this up, because I've tried to have this conversation with people, and it's a difficult one to have, because people have trouble separating the two things. This to me is a very good example of a film where the plot is a thing that holds the movie. The plot is almost an excuse to talk about ideas. And to me, if your ideas are strong enough, and they certainly are in Brazil, and we haven't even scraped the surface, I mean, the film itself, first visually, is incredible. There is not a frame that doesn't have something fascinating happening in it. There's not,
Mhm.
and not only just fascinating, but unique, something
Yeah.
different. And like, I know you're a big Tim Burton fan, and I've told you that you should seek out Terry Gilliam, because to me, a lot of the time, Tim Burton is style over substance. His films can look great, but I don't get much else out of them. And
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam has a very unique vision that's totally Gilliam. Any Terry Gilliam movie you see, even if you don't know who Terry Gilliam is, you're going to have a hint that you've seen something like this before, and also you haven't seen anything like it before. Because you haven't seen anything like it before in a similar way that you haven't seen anything like it before with something else. It's weird. That was convoluted and stupid, but to me, the themes and the ideas of the film are what's important, and the plot gets you through those themes and ideas. So I'd like to ask you if what you think when you see a film, what is the most important aspect of a film? Is it a film by film basis, which I think most of the time it is, or do you always just want a good plot?
Oh.
Because first of all, let me define plot. Plot is the character's goal, and I don't mean their internal goal. I mean their external goal. My goal is to figure out who this woman is and why I've been dreaming about her, or my goal is uh, to save someone or do something, or you know what I mean. Like a James Bond, the plot is to stop the bad guy. Same thing with a superhero movie. That's the plot. But so that's what I mean by plot, and story is the grander idea. So to you, can you have a film that has a very thin, kind of weak plot such as this, even though it does do lots of twists and turns, like you said, and can it still be a rewarding film to watch?
For me, it can still be a rewarding film, because yes, I do want a good plot. I want to be careful when I say a good story. I want to be careful about that. Me with any film, ever since I was young, if there's a way I feel that I can relate to the main character, um, or be able to put myself in that character's shoes, I'm able to watch it. It's either a good movie or just an okay movie because I can relate in some way, or I can see myself making those same choices, or going or feeling those same struggles that this character feels, whether it's internal or external. So for me, with Brazil, um, it was a good plot, even with the twists and turns, because I can relate to the main character Sam, his wanting to be free and escape the natural order of things.
Now, see that I wouldn't consider that a part of the plot. Sure, it drives a lot of his actions, but I would say that's more of a character motivation as opposed to a plot motivation. Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this is where it gets very complicated, because for most of us, plot and story are the same thing, but it's not true.
yeah.
Um,
That's why I said I had to be careful with saying story.
a plot is an element of storytelling, and
Yeah,
so I mean, so basically, I guess what I'm thinking of, yes, you can relate to the Sam character as I can relate to him, but in a film like this, is the plot, meaning him trying to seek out the truth behind this woman, is that the rewarding part of the film, or is everything else around it what matters?
well, good question. For me, I think the rewarding part of the film was what I was saying at the beginning, his pursuit of the woman, because That was his main focus. You know, she was the woman of his dreams. And once he literally, once he finally, by accident, found her, he had to do whatever he can to pursue her, to get to know her, to be with her. I mean, there's even a scene where she is labeled a terrorist because of the fact that she was trying to go against the government for their fuck up for her downstairs neighbor's husband's demise, just because of that T that was switched to a B. Mm-hmm. So she was trying to make a claim against them. So to shut her up, they mark her as a terrorist. Mm-hmm. So once he accepted it, he didn't want no promotion or anything to go to the information center. He accepted it this time, so he can change the paperwork himself, change her paperwork himself, so it would seem like she died. She was deceased. He changed it to deceased, which is why they marked him as a terrorist when they found out what he did. But yeah, his whole focus was to make sure that she was taken care of and that he can be with her for the rest of his life, because he's already been with her for his whole life in his dreams. He's always been pursuing her. He's always loved her. So he's going to do whatever he can for her. So, yeah, I think because the focus was her, that was it. I don't know if I can call him a hero. Well, yeah, you can call him a hero because you don't have to have super strength or a damn cape to be a hero. So it's pretty much the hero is doing what he can to save the woman that he loves.
You know, I'd be interested to see. I haven't watched it, but I'd be interested to see him talk about the alternate version of this film, which is when Terry Gilliam finished it, Universal refused to release it. They said that it's too dark, it's too everything, and they thought the theme of the film was love conquers all. And they wanted to release the film with a happy ending and as a love story. And it's in Terry's eyes, it's not necessarily, it wasn't really a love story. But they recently, when I say recently, I mean probably like 6 or 7 years ago, they released the Love Conquers All version of the film. And I'd be interested to see what you think of that, if it's the version of the film they say it is, because that interpretation you have is very much love conquers all sort of thing. Because I see the film and I don't see love. I don't see that he actually loves her. I think he loves the idea of her. And she doesn't love him, certainly. I don't think she likes him very much. And
didn't she start liking him? They did sleep together and stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at first she's kicking him out of her truck and she can't see him, and he's like stalking her, and it's, I don't know, it's interesting that, you know, you can see the film and you see all this stuff about love, and to me I see something more about just a way out, and he sees her maybe as a way out as opposed to as a love thing. Which brings me to my final point, and we really need to wrap this up. And I think it's very fitting. What shirt are you wearing today?
Man of Steel.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
There we go.
No, this is
ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to be
not going to talk about
new
Man
one.
of Steel. Not you. No. The director of Man of Steel. Something very well known in the community of people who give a shit is for a very long time Terry Gilliam was going to be the director of Watchmen.
Yep.
He's having a hard time making that film because he said basically you can't do the film, you can't do the graphic novel justice because there's just too much, and so they just gave up.
Yeah.
Now apparently his ending of the film is very weird, and I've read what the ending is, and it is very weird. But it's a typical Terry Gilliam ending. It's open-ended. You don't necessarily know for sure. Now, when Mr. Zack Snyder got the job of director, he was quoted as saying he felt he needed to make the film to save it from the Terry Gilliams of the world.
Whoa.
Fuck you. Because I can guarantee that the version Terry Gilliam would have done, even if it's completely different than the graphic novel, would have been more interesting than what Zack Snyder did with Watchmen. Look, I am not a fan, I'm not a huge fan of the Watchmen graphic novel. I've read it a couple times. I enjoy it fine. Don't. Every time I get into discussions with people about, oh, you don't understand this. No, I get it. Okay? I do. And
Thank you.
it just doesn't speak to me the way it speaks to you, and that's okay. But Zack Snyder's version of The Watchmen is exactly how you should not do an adaptation of The Watchmen, which is make it as close to the graphic novel as possible, but change certain things that stick out like a sore thumb. Like the Silk Spectre character. She's nothing like how she is in the comic book. In the comic book, she speaks her mind, she's a bitch, she's pretty annoying. In this, she's just a passive character who's there to fuck Dr. Manhattan and Night Owl. In the film,
he's a bitch.
Here's the thing. I once heard someone describe Watchmen as Zack Snyder's Watchmen looks like it was filmed by Dr. Manhattan when it really should have been filmed by Rorschach. And what that means is he makes Watchmen look beautiful. Even all the trash on the ground looks beautiful. They move like superhuman, yet none of them have powers. They all look gorgeous. Everything is amazing and incredible and just pristine. It's very Zack Snyder-y. But the theme, for me at least, and for a lot of people, the Watchmen is about the dirt. It's about the grime, the filth. This is a city that's overrun by filth. This is a world that's overrun by filth, and the only way to save it is to shock it. And there's nothing shocking about Zack Snyder's Watchmen. And I don't care how convoluted and insane Terry Gilliam's ending was, it would have been more shocking than Zack Snyder. And so, fuck Zack Snyder hard. I literally just read this maybe a couple days ago, which is why I'm bringing it up now. This is not really the place for it, because we're talking about Brazil. Look at Brazil and put in the Watchmen characters, and already you've got a better movie than what Zack Snyder did. I hate that man. No, I don't hate the man. I don't know. I'm sure he's a very nice man. I'm not a fan of his work. Anyway, done with the Zack Snyder rant. Just overall, did you like Brazil?
Yes, I did. I like Brazil.
Would you watch more Terry Gilliam films?
Definitely. And I would have been interested in seeing the Terry Gilliam Watchmen. I would have been interested in seeing it.
Me too. Oh, and to be fair, Terry Gilliam says he thought Zack Snyder's movie was fine, and that all the flaws in it were the same flaws that he had, and he's glad he didn't have to deal with it. So I mean, I shouldn't bash him too much. I'm more bashing the comments he made, because I mean, come on.
That was a low blow. That was a low blow.
No, I don't know if he meant from people like Terry Gilliam who want to change it. I don't know if he's saying Terry Gilliam's a bad filmmaker, or because he wants to change it too much. But I'd rather you make a good, entertaining movie that isn't a good adaptation than a bad adaptation that's also a boring movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, this review went all over the place. Brazil, obviously, you can watch it, talk about it with people. You're all going to have different opinions. And that's good. It's a movie that makes you think, and there aren't enough of those around. So, next week, we're going to, my choice for next week we'll talk about is the 1999 documentary American Movie. Mm-hmm. Very, very excited to talk about that. And, of course, did we mention yesterday what we were going
Across the Hall?
Right.
Across the Hall.
Across the Hall. They wanted Brittany Murphy to last time.
2003.
Was it 2003?
I think it was.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out later.
No, I only say that because they're releasing her final film in like a few weeks.
Oh, okay.
Whatever movie she was working on when she died is going to be coming out. So anyway, sorry for getting so ranty. I promise we're going to start making these shorter, but until we run out of Dustin.
And Non Critic Will.
And we need more Terry Gilliams of the world.